This episode is brought to you by Iams Pet Food. When you choose Iams dry dog or cat food, you can see a difference in your pet with your own eyes. Healthy energy in 5 days, healthy digestion in 10 days, and healthy skin and coat in just 25 days. Satisfaction for you and them. Guaranteed or your money back. Feed Iams dry dog or cat food and see a visible difference. Visit iams.com/difference to learn more.
Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. One of the perks about having 4 kids that you know about is actually getting a direct line to the big man up north. And this year, he wants you to know the best gift that you can give someone is the gift of Mint Mobile's unlimited wireless for $15 a month. Now, you don't even need to wrap it. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museum will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation. The MisFitNation show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation
Show.
Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome to our Thursday after dinner show. I know you're all tuning into the Olympic replays tonight to see how Team America did, or whatever country you're rooting for did today in the Olympics events. I think we had basketball, some track and field, some rock climbing, racing stuff. I think some long distance outdoor swimming for the women. Looked like it was kind of dirty water. Hopefully they come out of that all right. 12 years ago, I was in Afghanistan, in Kunar province, Afghanistan. In June, I was about my second or third day on our FOB, our COP Fortress, and a mortar hit and ripped through the back of my leg, out the front of my leg. I was medevac to Jalalabad, FOB Fenty, where our then headquarters was 4th Brigade of the 4th Infantry Division, the Mountain Warriors. The first person that came to visit me was Command Sergeant Major Kevin Griffith. The first question he told me, he said, "You're going to be all right, Sergeant. You got the $1 million wound." I said, "No, Sergeant Major, I didn't get shot in the ass." He said, "Yeah, but you get a free license plate for the rest of your life." This man was a true leader. He made me laugh in a time when I was kind of worried about my leg, kind of worried about where I'd go next. When I got back to the COP, he said, "See, I told you you'd be all right." It was just 2 months later, or 12 years ago today, a suicide bomber, 2 suicide bombers actually came and attacked him and his patrol, and we lost him that day. Sergeant Major Kevin Griffith, Major Thomas Kennedy, Major Walter Gray, and USAT civilian Ray J. Abdel Fada were all killed that day. Flo Groberg was a hero that day. He stopped the second bomber and took a pretty big blast himself. But today, I honor Sergeant Major Kevin Griffith, and this drink is for you. To Valhalla, brother. Now, our guest tonight, he's a USAT level 1 certified triathlon coach, a healthy running certified running coach, Lydiard level 2 certified running coach, RRCA certified running coach, and certified in personal sports nutrition. He has completed many endurance challenges, including 5 Ironman triathlons, 25 Half Ironman triathlons, 40 marathons, and 50 a 50-mile ultra marathon, and many other shorter distance triathlons and road races. His clients tend to be new runners and triathletes in the over 40 age group, looking to finish their first endurance challenges, reach for that first podium, finish, or strive to improve. So without further ado, let's welcome Brad Minus to the MisFitNation. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, we're really, really proud to be here. I appreciate it.
It's awesome to have you here, brother. I just gave basically less than a paragraph introduction about you. I know a lot of my guests a lot of my audience got a little tired listening about all the marathons and triathlons you did. So please tell us a little more about you, from as far back as you want to go to how you got into endurance racing. And then, of course, RRCA, all your coaching levels. I am also an RRCA coach as well.
Awesome. Yeah, let me just first mention that I first got into shape after high school in my 9.5 years with the U.S. Army active.
Right.
I also lost some mentors on September 11th when I was stationed at the Pentagon on that day. So as well as you guys talked about your mentor, I've lost a couple too. So I'm with you on that.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, so that's pretty much was my first introduction to endurance running, was running in cadence. And then being stationed at the Pentagon, we did a lot of running around the mall and Georgetown and Key Bridge and the whole bit. So my first marathon was the Marine Corps marathon while I was stationed at the Pentagon, where they sponsored us to run the marathon with the Children's National Hospital. So that was kind of like the first introduction. And I got to tell you, after that race, I said I'd never run another marathon ever again.
And then you said, sure.
10 years to the day, 1999, 2009, I ran the Chicago Marathon. It
Nice.
literally was to the day. But prior to that, what happened as I was starting my endurance journey, my fitness journey, I hurt my back. I was supposed to actually do the Marine Corps Marathon, the Chicago Marathon in 2008. But 2 weeks before the marathon, I ended up, I was in a boot camp class and, trying to stay active, trying to stay and keeping my military bearing. And we were doing suicides, and it was the last one. And I turned, and my foot stuck, and I cracked my back. And I ended up actually blowing out my L5S1, herniation and bulging disc and the whole bit. And they basically said that I was too young to go in any kind of fusion surgery, but I probably wouldn't be able to run more than 2 miles at a really slow pace for the rest of my life. Both the neurosurgeon and the orthopedic surgeon both said that to me, and I said nope. I said that's not going to happen. I'd been training for this marathon. I'm going to finish it. So I basically went to work, and I researched everything on the human body, how we run, how to remove impact from my back, and in that process and trying to cross train, I was introduced to triathlon, and I ended up falling in love with triathlon. And then after that Chicago Marathon, the following month, I did an Ironman. And then all of a sudden, people started asking me, well, how'd you do that? And before you know it, I was coaching. So that was, basically that was 2009. And then in 2010 and 11 is when I really started to ramp up the coaching process. I started doing some more research on how to coach moving forward. And it just kind of spiraled from there. It started out with one person saying, hey, will you help me out? And so I was doing that for free. And then all of a sudden it was running stores, and the running stores would be like, hey, can you put on a clinic? And I'm like, sure. And then, hey, will you take on this 5-week couch to 5K? Yeah, you know what I mean? It just kept spiraling from there. And then before you knew it, I've pretty much maintained a roster of about 15 people that I keep, because I also have a full-time job, and I also coach cross country at a local high school here, a private high school, and track and field. So yeah, that's pretty much how everything happened. It really got started with that injury.
It's usually how usually a shock and awe moment changes people's trajectory. And for you is injuring your back and thinking that you would never be able to do things again, probably, and move forward. When I was wounded, the doctors told me I would never run again, and I loved running before that. I ran one marathon just before that deployment at St. Louis, and I got wounded. He told me that, so I'd wake up early in the morning, 3 a.m, before my team leader would wake up. I'd go to the gym and walk on the treadmill, try to get that leg going back, and then finally I was able to do a 5K in country, and then ran the Savannah Marathon less than a year later. So
nice.
I kept pushing forward.
That's amazing, and I thank you for your service. I was on humanitarian out there, so that was as close as I got, unfortunately.
But you were there, so I mean, yeah, that whole area was not I would say a safe place. So
no,
yes, that's one of the people I mentioned was a USAID worker, so they thought they'd be in a safe area as well.
No, and that was kind of interesting to be at Fort Belvoir and at Fort Benning, getting regreened and stuff, because I actually was out, and then they pulled me back. And I had no problem going back. I actually it was kind of interesting when I got the letter. I was like, well, one half of me was like, obviously a little scared. And the other half of me was, yes, I'm back, baby. And then got to Fort Benning and saw the USAID workers and defense workers just scared out of their minds. And the rest of us that, we'd been through our training, and we had this calm about us until you got over there. So
We already have a question in the chat from one of our Tuesday crew guys. He wants to know, do you do Tough Mudders and Spartan races or stick to the longer marathons and triathlons?
Oh, love OCR. Are you kidding me? I am a big fan of Spartan. I've done two or three Tough Mudders and a couple of the Spartan races, and I absolutely adore them. There was at one time I was looking to increase my alphabet soup that you heard him talk about, and I was going to be look at that Spartan certification, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. But yeah, no, love OCR. I trained people for OCR. So yes, absolutely.
What was the most, I guess, gratifying person you ever trained? The biggest success story for a person you trained?
So there was one woman, and I can't say that I gave her the plan, and I checked in with her, and I trained with her for a little bit, with her. But I basically just laid out the plan. But she decided that she wanted to do an Ironman. The problem was she was 5'1" and 250 pounds.
Wow.
And she just had this idea that, hey, you know what? I'm going to go after this Ironman. And instead of doing the normal, and I talk about this a lot because it was a kind of a handshake deal that we had talked about. It's something that we came up with together. And it was like, hey, you want to lose the weight, you want to get fit, but you don't want to go in this normal way everybody does it. Hey, I'm going to diet and I'm going to go to the gym. And that's the normal way people do it. Some people do it, some people don't. She's like, no, I'm going to go after the Ironman. That's my goal. That it's to finish that race. And I said, you know what? If you do that, you follow the training plan, everything else is going to lead you to that. And you're going to end up losing the weight and getting fit on the way. She ended up standing on the beach of the start line at 120 pounds in a size small wetsuit. Took about 18 months, but yeah. And I think that was huge. And let me tell you something, she was pretty, but when she dropped the weight, she was hot. So, I mean, I don't want to be misogynist or anything, but it was a pretty spectacular transformation.
That's an amazing transformation in 18 months, and to get to the Ironman. Explain to people what an Ironman entails.
So an Ironman is a one-day event, and it is a 2.4 mile swim, usually in open water. No, every time in open water. It's a 112-mile bike ride and a marathon, 26.2 miles, all done consecutively. So get out of the water, get on your bike, get out of the bike, put on your running shoes, get on the road. It's not over days or anything. It's just one right after the other. The cutoff time is 17 hours.
And that takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to do even one part of those events, not to mention all three together with the transitions, with the mindset to get into transition. People try to beat the 2-minute mark in transition sometimes. Sometimes they stay a little longer until they get, I guess, a little more used to it, and then get back out there and do the next discipline. So the bike ride is a mind breaker enough to do all those miles on a bike and then come back and try to run after that. So kudos to her.
The big thing about that is that we always say, all of us that have done a couple of them, the Ironman really doesn't start till mile 80 on the bike. Once you get to mile 80, everything starts to fall away. It's kind of like it's like mile 21 on a fresh marathon. It's that wall. And it's usually like mile 80. All of a sudden, your butt hurts because you've been sitting on the saddle for so long. Your legs hurt. You're sick of gels, feeding yourself with gels and Gatorade. You're just like, just get me off this bike so I can run. And then all of a sudden you start to run and you're like, legs aren't moving, nothing's going on, and you're just struggling to get to the end. But yes, the Ironman is probably 75% mental.
Definitely. I didn't do an Ironman distance. I did the Olympic distance, I guess, the second one.
Yeah.
Did that in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and It was my first one doing an open water before that I did it in a gym, just because I thought it'd be cool to do. So I was working out one day and they said, we're going to have this little competition. So I said, oh, I'll try it out. And I did it. I was still in the Army at the time. I wound up coming in second place and out of the men's category without no training whatsoever. I was just pushing myself until vomit and then push myself to vomit again. And I get to Asbury Park and the waves they're over 6 foot waves. I was like, oh, this ain't gonna be good. This ain't gonna be good at all. It's open water, 6 foot waves. And you just get out there and you do it, and you're with so many other people that are thinking the same thing. These waves are too big. And it kind of calmed down as we started swimming and coming out of that water. It was refreshing. Now we can get on that awesome bike. And just like you said, when I got about halfway through the bike, I felt the pain through my legs. The butt cheeks were hurting. And then the back was hurting from bending over so much. Then get to the run, you get the jelly legs a little bit. But when you get to that finish and everyone's cheering you on, no matter what place you're in at that point, they're just happy to see you coming in and you're happy to see them still there. So it's awesome.
There is nothing like coming into a triathlon finish line. There's just no feeling that you could ever imagine, except if you're a coach, because the only feeling that beats you coming across that line is one of your clients coming across that line and either PRing or doing their first long distance or just doing better than they did last time.
Definitely. Yes. My best client story would be I had a friend who got diagnosed with MS, and she said before it got too bad, she wanted to be able to run a marathon. And I said, I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but since you want to do it, I'll take this challenge. And I accepted it. And I worked with her the whole time, and she did it. And it was amazing to see her when she was able to complete that goal and finish that marathon.
Wow, that's amazing. So I've got a couple. Well, first of all, I have an uncle that has MS, and I had an aunt that unfortunately passed away from MS. So that's a story that's near and dear to my heart. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
No problem. I'm so proud of her when she did it. And I would mention her name, but she kind of tries to stay private about things. So I just give her a kudos and thumbs up. She knows who she is.
My first client also had MS. Wow. I was training for another triathlon, and I was in the pool, and the guy next to me is swimming, and I get up, and we're both resting at the wall at the same time, and we started talking, and I says, yeah, I just started coaching, and I'm doing these clinics at these boutique running stores. And he's like, oh, so you're a coach, he says. And he goes, hey, if somebody had weak ankles, would that keep you from coaching them? And I'm like, no, that can be strengthened. Oh. And then he goes, what about MS? And I was like, if you have MS, your best idea, the best thing that you could possibly do is keep moving. So no, it's not going to keep me. And you know what? We worked together. We got him to do a 5K, a 10K, and then he got him to do a half marathon and a second one. And then all of a sudden, he started doing them every weekend. It's like every weekend he was doing. If he didn't do one that was organized, he did it on his own. And about 5 years later, we were at the same half marathon. We had touch base here and there, but we basically lost touch. And we saw each other, and I was like, Rich, what's going on? How are you? And he's like, Brad, he's like, this is amazing. I'm like, are you still doing a half marathon every single weekend? He goes, like clockwork, won't stop. And I'm like, why? He goes, well, you know what? After I trained with you, I reduced my medication by half. And then as I kept going, I reduced it by half again. And I'm just scared that if I don't keep doing these half marathons every weekend, I'm going to have to go back on medication because right now I feel like $1 million. And I'm like, good for you, brother. Good for you.
Wow. From on Twitter or X now, we got a question from Emily635. I think, Emily635. She wants to know, since you coach all these different disciplines and you've done all these different races, what is your favorite race and what's your favorite distance to run?
My favorite of all time is the Ironman. Well, it doesn't have to be Ironman. It's the 70.3, which used to be dictated as the Half Ironman. They've been trying to move it, called the Ironman 70.3 or the 70.3 distance, because people were saying, oh, it's the Half Ironman. Well, when are you going to do a full? But it's just as hard, or It's extremely challenging, but the half Ironman distance is my favorite. And so far, it's been North Carolina. The Ironman North Carolina 70.3 is probably my favorite race so far.
Outstanding. I think a lot of runners love the half marathon more than the marathon because the half marathon is half as painful, obviously. But you still have a lot of energy at the end to do other things the rest of the day. Like when you do the Marine Corps marathon, while it's amazing to run through the mall and see everything up there, by the time you're done, you got to go down into the subway and try to wait for that train and get to wherever you're going and hope that it gets there on time to get back to the race hotel. And maybe you'll have some juice left in your legs. But I'll never take away that is my favorite marathon, the Marine Corps marathon, and then the Army 10 miler as well is also up there too.
Yeah, I did the Army 10 miler the whole time I lived in DC. And it was funny because when I got called back, I was still living in DC.
Oh wow.
And I ended up where I am now, is here in Tampa, because I was at CENTCOM at MacDill Air Force Base. Well, that was my headquarters.
Right. Yeah, I think the Army 10 miler, I like the way they started the Army 10 miler with the balloons and stuff. Each balloon colors your wave, and then you get out there and just go. And I did it with a lot of people from my unit, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had coached. Well, we didn't really coach it. It was master fitness trainer. So I grabbed a few of the guys that could do it, and we did it when I was stationed at the Pentagon. And then we did have a CENTCOM team, and I just happened to be, stateside when the Army 10 miler was coming on. So we put a CENTCOM team out there too. It was fun.
Yeah, it's always good to go up there with the team and then wind up having your own little tent area and stuff and hang out and then of course mingle with all the others. So
sometimes that's better than the actual race.
Yeah.
You go to the expo, and AUSA does a great job at the expo for both the 10 miler and the Marine Corps marathon. And the expo is fun, and you get all this energy and all these soldiers and Marines and Air Force and they're just all there, and people are signing in and they're looking at all the stuff that AUSA puts out, and they just do a great job. But that's a lot of fun. Then you finish and there's all these tents around and people are stuffing food in your face and trying to give you beers. And, it's something else. I gotta tell you, it's just one of those, just the greatest thing about being, a marathon or half marathon or 5K, 10K, all these things. I mean, think about, there's the hot chocolate 15K and 5K, you know what I mean? And let me tell you something, I don't think I've tasted better chocolate than when I finished up one of those, and I live in Tampa, so
we did the hot chocolate 15K here in Nashville, and it was probably the coldest day in Nashville in over 20 years. So by the time we got to the hot chocolate at the end, it was kind of cold. I was like, man, this is cold chocolate, but it's good chocolate. Thank you so much. It's like chocolate syrup going into it.
Right. It's almost like Starbucks used to have this thing back in the day when they first opened up. They used to call it drinkable chocolate. And it literally was this thick chocolate, and they served it in like an espresso cup, because it was so rich. And that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Definitely. And I think in the running world, the community of runners is what's awesome. No matter what race you're in and you're running, you're going to say hello to somebody at least every mile. If you're just running and talking, in marathon, I try to meet 26 new people when I run. Have you ever had that feeling?
Absolutely. So because I live in Tampa, about September every year, I get an influx of clients. And that's usually because we have the Disney Marathon in January. And I always tell people, I'm like, if you're not in corral A or B, that is not a race you're going to PR.
No.
It's just, you don't go there to PR that race. You go to meet people and take pictures with the characters, no matter how old you are. Exactly. And it's a blast. But yeah, easily can meet 26, 30 people while you're out there. And you're running through the backstage of all of the different parks. And it's an amazing feeling when you're out there.
Definitely is. I think you guys also do the Gasparilla down there as well. I forget what month that's in.
Yeah, it's in February. And it's 2 days. The first day is the 15K, followed by the 5K, and the 5K is probably one of the biggest 5Ks in the world. Wow. It's over 20,000 people that run it, and then there's the stroller side. So you've got that. And then the following day is the half marathon, and then what they call it's the 8K, what they used to call the 5+3K, because it was sponsored by Fifth Third Bank. So they cut that. So the 8K, which is 5 miles. So, and then of course they have the challenges that you can do all of them, which is the Michelob Ultra Challenge. And then they have the Michelob Amber Challenge, which is everything except for the 8K.
Wow. And I think Disney has the challenge too. You do like the Goofy Challenge or all them other things as well.
Dopey Challenge 6 times. Yeah. So that's a 5K on Thursday, 10K on Friday, half marathon on Saturday, and a full marathon on Sunday.
Just your pain tolerance. It just goes up as you move on through that and get that new.
Pretty much. You kind of race yourself into you kind of race yourself into shape. By the time you've hit that 26th mile, you're in great shape. You're sore as all heck, but you're in great shape.
You're definitely on the golf cart the rest of the day. So we talked about some of your clients that have success stories. What is your typical client? What age group do they usually fall into?
So it's changed over the years. There was like 1 or 2 years where I had a bunch of guys that were trying to get into special forces. And they're like, I can't run 5 miles in 40 minutes. You got to train me to do that. So I had a bunch of guys that were trying to do that. And then of course they've got other things that they've got to do. So they were in the weight room and they're with me and they're trying to, to get into the Q course. So that was always fun. But over the last few years, it really has been 40s and 50-year-olds. Either they're in that time of their life when they're maybe a little overweight, or they feel like they want to jump back into, their childhood when they were able to bounce back and they were able to run and jump and do all that stuff. And then of course there's the 5Kers and the 10Kers that want to move up to the marathon, or they've got a bucket list, and the bucket list is, hey, they want to do the marathon, they want to do an Ironman, they want to do a half Ironman, what it is. And so I've found that that's what it is. It's these people that are, they're either thinking about retiring from corporate world, or they're in that kind of role, or they've got or they're an entrepreneur and they've got some time, so now they feel like they can actually put 100% into their training. And then there's I've got a couple of lawyers and a doctor that just feel like they're always working and they need something else to get them back into shape. And like I've always said, and just like with Kat's story, and this is my big thing, this is the message that I have been trying to get out for the last few years, last 10 years, is to not go after the easy goal. And I shouldn't say easy goal, but the regular goal. Like Kat, she needed to lose weight, she needed to get in shape. That wasn't her goal. The goal was the Ironman, which is a lot more fun to be thinking about. I'm going to get to that finish line. I'm going to get to the start line healthy and I'm going to finish it. That's a lot more positive.
Yes.
And it's a lot more fun than, oh, okay, I'll go step on the scale. Oh, okay, there's another pound. Oh, let's go to the gym. I'll go to my class. I'll go to my personal trainer. And that's like the normal way to go about it. But these people that I've gotten through, or people that I've actually been talking to on my own podcast, about taking that step further, something bigger than yourself. You want to get fit, you want to see the world, you want to lose weight. Pick a giant goal that you never thought possible. You never ever would think of it. So, like someone that's never mountain climbed before, and I said, okay, I'm gonna climb Mount Everest. It might be a 5-year journey, right? But you might go do Mount St. Helens. Then you might go to there's a mountain in Palm Springs, I can't remember off the top of my head. Then you might go to Kilimanjaro. And in Kilimanjaro, there's two trails. There's one that's a little bit less of an incline as you go up, and then there's one that's steep. And so the first year you might go up that, then the next one, then you might go after Everest. But you hit all these little ones on the way. But meanwhile, you're getting in better shape. You're probably learning more about diet. And if you do these workouts, you don't want to put that stuff back in your body. I mean, I remember when I first started on a big fitness journey, my first time trying to go out for this marathon, it was like, come back home and all of a sudden you see Big Macs, and I didn't want to eat that stuff anymore. I wanted to fuel my body for my workouts. It just becomes a want. It's not even anymore of, oh, am I now giving up these items? It's not giving up. It's replacing them with things that are healthier. So you get that, plus you're working out because you've got a training plan to get you to that next goal. And it's just a lot more fun than the norm of counting calories, getting on the scale, blah, 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 And it's just, that's the biggest message that I've got for people, is to just find something bigger than yourself. You know what I mean? If you've done a half marathon, a half Ironman, or a half marathon, go after the full. And you know what? If you don't hit it the first time, if you falter, there's always another one.
Yes.
So you just, hey, you falter, take it, figure out what you did wrong, mark your mistakes, have your lessons learned, and go after it. Go after it again until you hit it.
Dwell on it. Just move forward.
Exactly. And then when you're done with that, find another one, find another goal, and go and forward. Does it have to be running? No, it doesn't have to be running. It could be a lot of things that you want to go after. If you finally hit that bucket list of your marathon, maybe now you want to do a Tough Mudder, a Spartan race, or maybe you do want to climb Kilimanjaro, or you know what I mean. You want to get on America's Ninja Warrior. Yeah. So you go after it, and you just keep going after it. And sometimes it's not physical. Sometimes a marathon opens your mind up, or an ultra marathon, or something that you've just done. All of a sudden you've gone from nowhere to a marathon or to an Ironman or whatever. Now all of a sudden your head's like, hey, I just completed a freaking Ironman. What can't I do? So you want to start a business? You want to get on 9 to 5? Go after it. That's your goal. Then that becomes the goal. Or maybe you've got two goals, but it opens up to your mind. I remember the first time that I jumped out of a plane, outside of airborne, when I did a free fall for the first time. You hit the ground, and you're able to pull down on the risers and just kind of float in, and you get done. You look up at the sky, and you're like, I was up there, and you're like, hey, I just jumped out of a plane at 35,000 feet. What can't I do? Nothing. I can do anything I put my mind to. So that's kind of how I look at it.
And you fell out of a perfectly good military plane and made it too. So you got to look at when you do skydiving and military jumping, it's two totally different things. But you made it in both instances. So
you hit the ground a hell of a lot harder coming out of a C-130.
Yes, and it's test equipment or very lowest bidder equipment. So you got to deal with that. So you yourself overcame an injury to get into this. What would you coach up a client on if they were overcoming some kind of adversity? How would they get through that to maybe get to that goal of hitting that Ironman or whatever their main goal is, and hit all those other goals along the way?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, but I'll answer it the best I can. First is obviously to make sure that the injury is diagnosed, that they're on a care plan to strengthen, to get over that injury, if it's an injury. Adversity, sometimes it's counseling, sometimes the training plan, you actually disregard the adversity and you just put them on the training plan and you keep after them as if they didn't have that in their head. And the endorphins and the physicality start to alleviate a lot of the pain that trauma, adversity, obstacles start to fall. And then you can address it. I consider myself an endurance coach, but I'm also been on long phone calls with clients, with spouses that have passed away suddenly, and illnesses for loved ones, and having being in the middle of training and having a nasty injury. So it's not just okay, do this, this, and this, and you're going to get fit, and then you're going to go and get your goal. There's a lot of personality that goes along with it. So, for instance, you know what? Let's go back to Rich, also named Rich, and the gentleman that had MS. I was on a call every 3 weeks that we would have a Zoom call where I talked on the Zoom call was his primary care physician, his specialist, a licensed massage therapist, and a chiropractor.
Wow.
And there would be the five of us sitting on the Zoom call, and I would say, okay, this week is going to be this. Do we have any issues? And the PCP would be like, oh no, his blood counts look good. And his specialist would be like, he seems to have some good movement, so I think he's okay for this. The chiropractor would say this, and maybe the massage therapist might even come in and say, you know what, he's a little tighter in the hamstrings. Make sure that he checks off the box of stretching his hamstrings before and after. So we would come together every 3 weeks and talk about what was going on for the next 3 weeks. And then they would tell me, hey, you know what? Blood counts were a little off. I think you need to have him go into recovery for another week. And I would do that. So that would be, another instance of how do you get past something in adversity is actually to engage more of the resources.
Definitely a team of teams. That's the best way to do it right there. And you have all the experts in one square box there, and you in the Zoom, so you're able to look at each other and talk it out and determine what he should or should not do at that point and how to get him to that next point. And that's the best way to do it.
Exactly. And then, and my first Ironman, my primary care physician, my chiropractor, and my LMT all had a HIPAA waiver from me so they could speak. I don't know if they actually spoke over Zoom, but I know they emailed when things were not working out, but they all knew that, hey, if I had some tenderness in the back, what did they need to tell, the person that was actually coaching me at the time?
So that's awesome right there. And you thought that to let that happen while also training for yourself. So that's a great way to show that you've been through it, and then let your clients know they can also do the same thing.
Yeah. I had changed my running form 3 times in order to be able to get to the point where I could run. Because that's basically what it was. I read Gray's Anatomy back cover to cover. There's a great book called Anatomy for Runners. I read that cover to cover. I talked to Danny Abershire. I talked to Jeff Galloway. All these these big running coaches asking about form. What can I do to take the pressure off my back and move forward? And it turned out the best thing for me was to go back to natural running, which was barefoot running. And when you run naturally, the way your body was supposed to run, there's not a lot of pressure on your knees or your back.
Huh. See, lesson learned, everybody. Listen.
Yeah.
Got a question again from Jake from the Tuesday Crew. Have you ever worked with the Army athlete, the World Class Athlete Program, helping them with training?
No. But I wouldn't turn it down, not even in the least. I might give everything up to be on that program.
I think the World Class Athlete Program is based out of Colorado, right? Colorado Springs, pretty sure. Especially
that's where the National Training Center is.
Yes, I think we have at least one in the marathon coming up. A soldier running in the marathon on Sunday. I think is the last day of the Olympics. And I think we have a soldier running in that. So
nice,
that's cool. So, Brad, we talked about a lot of stuff. You gave a lot of tips, a lot of things that you went through, a lot of things that you helped your clients with. If there were 3 other things you could tell the MisFit Nation that could make them have a better, trajectory towards their goal, what would that be?
Number 1 is balance. So the idea of, and I talked about, that when you decide that you're going to move forward with something, and sometimes you've got to include diet, sometimes you've got to include a new workout and stuff. It's balance. It's you've done most of the stuff during the week. If your spouse sits there and says, hey, let's have a glass of wine, have a glass of wine. Just don't overdo it. You want to have that piece of French silk pie? Go have that piece of French silk pie. The one for the week, So balance, enjoy yourself. Make sure that your workouts are not completely intervening with family time and spouse time, girlfriend time. You know what I mean? Don't let it become such an obsession that you're not taking care of the rest of your life, because it's not. Most of us that do Ironmans and half Ironmans and marathons and stuff, this long distance, this crazy stuff that we do. We do it for fun. We're age groupers. We call it the age groupers, right? We actually pay to punish ourselves.
Yes.
So if you're going to pay to punish yourself, at least enjoy the good times too. And that's those times with your family, the extra, the extra helping of mashed potatoes every once in a while, the French fries, the Big Mac, just don't overdo it. Once in a while is great, and reward yourself. But after that, time to get back to work. The other thing is that it's about finding that next race. It's about where you're going to go for that. It doesn't stop with a race or with a specific goal. There's got to be something after that. My biggest thing that I found is after my first Ironman, and everybody told me about it, but I didn't believe it because I was thought that my first Ironman was my one and done. It was my bucket list. I was out of it. And they called it the Ironman Blues.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I don't understand that. And so I was lucky that Ironman Florida was on a Saturday. So Sunday drove home and I'm like, yeah, I'm sore beyond belief. I'm like, not a big deal. Monday came around. And of course, now Monday back at work, the whole bit. So the alarm goes off at 4:30 and you're like, oh, I don't have to get up. Great. But as you're going back to sleep, I'm like, that's kind of sad. I don't really have a purpose to get up. By Tuesday, I was looking for a new race.
There it is.
And I think it's always about what is coming up next for you. And it doesn't have to be the same like event line. It's just something else that's moving you towards the person you want to be, in the shape that you want to be in, and in the mindset, keeping the mindset, everything that you learned from the first experience. So always looking forward. And I always say, always have that next. If you're a habitual racer like me and the clients that I have, it's always knowing that there's another race coming up. It doesn't have to be what we call an A race, but it's that next race. The third thing, I guess, is if you have a specific look that you're going for, that you have to give yourself permission to falter. And if you're looking to get abs, or it's the outside, the beautification, there's a word for it. And I'm trying to look for it. I can't seem to come up with it. But it's that, it's the outside, and you just want to look like that on the outside, is that you can't have that be your 100% thing. You can't be going, okay, I want to get my abs, so I'm going to not eat for 5 days, or I'm going to go on a water fast, to get those abs. It's too much. You got to find the right trajectory, the right plan to get you there healthy, because no one's going to care that you've had washboard abs for 3 days, right? Because you finished your water fast and all of a sudden you can see them. And now you're so starving that you're going to start eating greasy burgers and everything again. Find the right trajectory in the realistic amount of time.
Awesome. All great advice. MisFitNation, please heed that advice. And if you have questions, Brad's about to tell you how to get in contact with him. Brad, how do they find out? How do they talk to you, maybe be their coach or just chat with you?
So I have my own business. It's called Inner Fire Endurance Sports. And that's where my coaching business is. And that's innerfireendurance.com. And there's a contact sheet on there. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Instagram and Facebook are probably the two ones, and and I'm Brad A- on those. If you'd like to, and I'm not taking anything away from the Misfit Nation, because this is a fabulous show, but if you do want to check out Life-Changing Challengers, that's my podcast, and I don't just talk to people in the fitness realm. I talk to people all over, and the basic thing about that podcast is that it's exactly what I talked about. It's about people that have overcome adversity, injury, obstacles, tragedy in their lives in an uncommon way, just like the first client that I told you about. And that's lifechangingchallengers.com. And I'm on, and Life Changing Challengers is on every single podcast directory you can imagine.
And both his website and the name of his podcast are in the chat. website's going across the bottom of the screen right now. Don't be afraid to reach out and get the advice, and maybe he'll get you to your first Ironman and beyond. And then maybe you'll challenge him to a tough mudder, and you both will do the mudder together. So
yeah, that would be great.
Teamwork right there.
And I have no problem just answering questions. You just want to email me if you got a quick question, you want to know something, let me know. I love answering questions. So just, send me a quick email, slide into a DM, whatever, and we'll talk about it.
Awesome. Brad, this has been great chatting with you tonight. Thanks for taking some of your time on a Thursday night to hang out with us. Keep getting after it and making your clients do the best they can and be the best they can as they move through life.
I appreciate it, Rich. I thank you. I appreciate the service that you've helped our country with, and the Misfit Nation. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night.
Night.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.